Board meeting clerk, could you please read the roll call?
Councilman Michaelin?
Here.
Councilwoman Snow?
Here.
Councilwoman Pitt?
Here.
Councilman McCarthy?
Here.
Supervisor Schmidt?
Here, please stand and follow us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, first item for the agenda tonight, we have privilege of the floor with respect to agenda items only. Any comments regarding agenda resolutions? Come on up, state your name, address for the record. Try and keep your comments around 3 minutes. None. We will move along into our resolutions. First resolution, number 72, billing for Pawling Water District number 2. I'll make a motion for resolution 72. Could I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion from the board? Roll call vote. Councilwoman Pitt?
Aye.
Councilman McCarthy?
Aye.
Councilwoman Snow?
Aye.
Councilman Migan?
Aye.
Supervisor Schmidt? Aye. Thank you. Resolution 73. I'll make a motion for establishing a budget for the comprehensive plan, and I'll ask for a second before we go into further discussion.
Second.
All right, discussion from the board? Anybody?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. This 89,556 is the total expenditure?
That's what we anticipated in the first round, yeah, when we did the funding and the initial plan for the comprehensive plan to open it up, yes.
So what is that, this will be done in phases?
It's probably going to end up being in phases because comp plans tend to cost a bit more than this, but to really, when's the last year this was actually completed? I know they did one here, then didn't adopt it. Kathy, do you remember what year that was?
I think it was 2012. Took 2.5 years and cost about $250,000.
So it will get end up being more in depth, but this at least will start the process, and we can target certain areas in the town as well, and then it gives the ability to apply for more funding as well.
Yeah, I was reading up on some of LaBerge's notes. They said it could take 12 to 18 months to finalize this.
Comp plans usually run around 12 to 18 months for any town, yeah.
And this first phase, this money would be for, do we need to get a planner?
We could include a planner. I mean, the first thing we're going to do is establish a committee, and what we're hoping to do is, with the committee, we'll have people from the community, we'll have people from, probably someone from the town board, someone from the town planning board, someone from the zoning board, maybe one each, and then community members, and that's someone that'll work with us, and a planner would be extremely helpful. These should be done every 12 to 15 years on average. That's the way most communities approach them.
So I'll go.
We're a little bit further behind right now.
I have a lot of different questions about the
So we have a lot of catch up to do is my point, right, to get this thing under control.
So I have a lot of questions about the comprehensive plan. Maybe I'll wait till my discussion at the end, or should I just go through them now?
I mean, if you think it's going to affect, well, this is just the budget phase for the first part of it. So your questions probably aren't going to react to this anyways. So we can do some now if you'd like as well.
Sure.
Or you can do some in discussion. I don't know that they're necessarily going to pertain to the resolution, because this is just the budget for the bookkeeping department to get this rolling.
So what happens before the committee is established? Why do we free this money up now? What goes on that we need to free this money?
Well, this money was already done. The first time was October 3rd, 2024 is when we first approved this money.
Okay.
Yeah. That's when we awarded the grant. We got the Hudson River Greenway grant for $15,398. We have the New York State DOS Smart Growth Plan for $58,760, and then the town of Pawling matches $15,398. So out of the basically $90,000, Pawling's only given $15,000.
Are there timelines on either one of these two
Well,
grants?
sure. Every grant has a timeline.
So-
The next step is to establish this committee, right? Is to get a committee in place, get that recognized by the board, and then we'll get that committee working with the planning board, the zoning board, the conservation advisory board, this board, and then you start looking at different areas, whether you're going to do, they could take the entire comprehensive plan and decide they're not going to redo the whole thing. Maybe they're going to redo parts of it.
Right.
Maybe there's parts that they still like. They say this part's okay.
With some of my
that's
questions,
the first thing to start with.
Because it said in LaBerge's notes in one of the emails that our attorney has a lot of information that he feels needs to be tightened up as far as our,
Verbiage, yeah,
so that we can actually enforce our code.
correct.
I would think that might be one of the first things we want to do. Although nothing really gets, it doesn't get approved in phases. It would only get approved at the end, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's not an easy process. 12 to 18 months. I think probably closer to 12 because we're a smaller community compared to some of, Poughkeepsie, East Fishkill, the bigger towns who've taken that long. But I wouldn't feel the need to approve it in phases because I think every phase makes up the whole plan. So I think you're better off having everything together because there may be things that you want to see in the comp plan, but not in that certain phase, right? So you may say you're better having everything in one shot done and have all corners of Pawling reviewed, for east side, west side, as far as development, acreage, and potential subdivisions, where you don't want subdivisions, where you're on open space.
So what is LaBerge's role in this whole thing? You know what I mean? Like, if we don't, do we need our own planner, or will LaBerge be our planner? I'm just,
So we have money in this year's budget for a planner. I guess we'd have to really see if we're going to bring them in this early on
right.
for this or not, but LaBerge would absolutely be working hand in hand with us on this project.
So I guess my
for the
question
first
is,
phase.
what is LaBerge's role in this whole
They
thing?
will do planning until we need to expand it to our own planner if we need it. When I talked to LaBerge, they were anticipating between 2 and 3 public hearings. We are not going to redo the whole comprehensive plan because there's many parts of it that are perfect. I mean, I even talked to Ed Hauser this morning, and it's just certain areas that we need to look at. Like you said, some of the laws that Michael Liguori has pointed out that need to be refined since they were originally written. Up and down Route 22, some of the commercial properties, we might want to look at that with this new sewer going in. If there's other avenues that we want to look at, we may want to look at Lakeside Park. What does the town really want to do long-term with Lakeside? We've been doing steps of things that we had to fix, but that could be added to it also
So
as discussion parts.
as far as the committee goes, will those, and then when they meet, will those meetings be open to the public, or will they be private meetings?
They'll be, I'm not going to, I don't know for sure, Marty. I think what will happen is they will make recommendations, and then we will have public hearings to have the public hear what we're proposing, or what we're considering, and what we're looking at, and then it will continue up that way, isn't it?
Do those meetings have to be open to the public of the comprehensive plan committee?
Not for a
Meetings and
committee.
advisory boards don't have to be open to the public, no.
Yeah, not
They
committee
can be.
meetings.
I think the overall process includes, like, once the committee is established and they have, meetings, I believe they come up with a participation plan for the community survey, stakeholder interviews, local and regional planning efforts and ongoing initiatives. They profile the community profile, community visioning workshops, draft comprehensive plan, environmental quality reviews, county planning board reviews. So, I mean, there's a lot of community involvement
Yeah.
there for sure.
You'd expect them to
have to
present to the
establish
board
what
as well,
we
right?
want.
You would have a couple of presentations to the board as well, which is why it's important to have folks from not just town board, planning board, and zoning board on the committee. You want people from the community on the committee, right? So there's
Yeah.
already that interaction going on as well.
So how many are we looking at for the board?
The grant agency recommended between 7 and 9.
7 and 9, okay.
And how do we go about appointing a board? Do we do that as a board?
So we have circulated a couple of emails to everybody asking for some input. For a special committee like that, it does fall on the supervisor to appoint those people. So I could appoint those, but the best thing would be have everybody kicking names and recommendations, which is why we circulated emails to the board asking, say, give us 2 recommendations for this committee. And then I'll pick someone from the planning board as well and someone from the zoning board as well. But it'd be great to get everyone's input on that so that we can see who wants to be involved in this committee. And you want to get people from Holmes, you want to get people from Quaker Hill, you want to get people from the middle of town.
You also
want to cover all the corridors.
people who potentially in their own private lives are professionals. in planning. That's my opinion. I wouldn't want to see it, I would want to see a very diverse group myself, not
Sure,
just
yeah, of
coming
course.
out of one field or another.
Yeah, no, I think that's the whole point of putting together a committee that'll work with all
So
the
I had
boards.
mentioned, I threw in a couple of names the other day, and I was interested, I want to see who everybody else is kicking in, because
Yeah.
but you're saying it's not really up to me personally, as a member of this board, to pick this committee?
No, so that committee comes directly from the supervisor. But rather than just appointing that committee, that's why we circulated the email saying we want everyone to give recommendations, rather
No,
than
no,
me just
I
picking it. So-
gave my recommendations,
Yeah.
but I'd like to see the other recommendations
Yeah, we don't have them all in
as
yet.
well.
We don't have responses from the whole board yet. That's why it hasn't been even appointed yet. But this is something that we want appointed in the next 3 to 4 weeks, tops. I would even say by the first workshop meeting in May, honestly.
So when I sent in my recommendations, I included everybody in it.
Yeah.
So I'd like
Yeah, we
to
don't
see
have,
the same.
there's none of those, there's no other responses yet with those,
So there's
not to
no
the whole-
other people-
Not to the whole board yet in an email, no,
I know.
yeah.
And just for clarification, they can be on another board.
They can be
So
on
like
another board.
Conservation Advisory Board.
Absolutely.
which
So someone from the Conservation Advisory
could
Board
be on
is
this as
interested,
well.
yeah,
Okay,
yes,
perfect.
absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
So I also saw in an email that, I don't know if this is accurate or not, or if I'm using the right verbiage, but did you appoint Jim and Corinne to the Comprehensive Plan Committee?
No, there's no committee appointed yet.
Okay,
There's
because I
no-
saw that in a.
No, there's no
email
committee
from,
appointed, there's
Jim.
no committee appointed yet. That's why we're asking everyone to get their recommendations into me.
And how many town board members would be able to be on a committee like this?
Depending on how many referrals we get, well, you couldn't have more than 2.
Right.
And then, and like, as a planning, you couldn't have more than 3, right? And then, because you can't have a quorum from any one board
No,
on
I
that
get
board.
that.
I think the safest thing, honestly, would be to have one person from planning, even though our planning board has some really strong people on it, but there's 2 or 3 that I would like to see on it, but the reality is we're going to pick one,
Mm-hmm.
right? Maybe 2 from planning, possibly, depending on what else we get from the community.
Maybe one from zoning, potentially?
And, yeah, well, I think it'd be very beneficial to have zoning and planning represented on that board, for sure. Yeah. So.
the rest of it I'll
This
get into
is something that we should be able to, my goal is that this will be appointed in the workshop in May, the first meeting in May. Right, this whole board. So if everyone could respond to that email thread and kick in their recommendations, and, I already started speaking to some of the planning board members and some of the zoning board members to see who's interested and who has time available. I did reach out to some people in the community to see if there's any availability and if they'd want to do it. It's also tough going into summer. Some folks are like, do I really want to take this on? The weather's
I mean,
just
it's a
getting nice. It's going to be a commitment for the next year, for sure. The next year is really going to be the commitment to it.
So I went on and looked at comprehensive plans in New York, and Bedford had done one, or maybe they're still in the process of doing it. But they had many meetings, and they had many meetings that were open to the public as well. So
Yeah.
they would be during our regular, I believe, workshop meeting. I'm not sure.
You could have those presentations at the workshop meetings, for sure. And again, in some places like Bedford, they probably stayed on top of it. These plans should be done every 12 to 15 years max. So this is, this may take a little more work. Is there a second on the table?
Yes.
All right, I'll do a roll call vote for 73. Councilwoman Pitt,
Aye.
Aye.
Councilwoman Snow,
Aye.
Councilman Migan,
Aye.
Supervisor Schmidt, aye. Thank you. Resolution 74, acknowledgement of part-time court clerk. I know we spoke about Audrey last week. Excited to have her in here. I know she's working hard. We checked in on her again. I know she met with Nancy today as well. So it's great to see they're working down there and getting all the stuff. We got some deliveries today for them as well in my office, some new computer screens and things like that. So just an acknowledgement of this appointment from the judges. So I'll make a motion for Resolution 74. Could I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Councilwoman Pitt?
Aye.
McCarthy?
Aye.
Councilwoman Snow?
Aye.
Councilor Migan?
Aye.
Supervisor Schmidt, aye. Resolution 75, authorizing the advertisement of bids on BidNet. So in some of our presentations recently, we had different grant companies in here, and one of the things that came up was that our RFPs that are going out and weren't hitting as many community papers and online sources as we had hoped, which we realized was some of the reasons why we weren't getting as many bids coming back, even from contractors on projects. So I'm glad to see that we're moving on, and we're going to expand on this a bit using BidNet. And that'll help us every time anything from the town goes out to bid, even professional services, contractors, things of that nature. It's going to go to a larger platform. So that'll give us more exposure and hopefully get us more bids and maybe more competitive bids as well. So I will make a motion for Resolution 75. Can I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Councilwoman Pitt?
Aye.
Councilman McCarthy?
Aye.
Councilwoman Snow?
Aye.
Councilor Migan?
Aye.
Supervisor Schmidt? Aye. Thank you. Resolution 76, approval of mower purchase. I don't think Wendell's not here today, is he? No. Usually Wendell's here to talk about he's usually excited to get a new lawnmower. But Resolution 76 is a purchase of a new Land Pride mower for the Kubota tractor, which is Wendell and the grounds crew will be using on town grounds. It's supported by the 2025 budget, and it is the amount of, it's a Sourcewell bid, and it's $8,013. I'll make a motion for Resolution 76. Could I have a second?
Second.
Discussion?
What happens to the old mowers?
If he's not using them, he'll put them out for that, I forget that site's called, auction
Auctions
site.
International?
Auctions International, yeah, he puts them out.
This is a
And
mower
is-
that he's never had before. This is a flail mower. So what it is when he has a brush hog, and a brush hog basically has two blades. This has many blades in a row, and it spins around. So when he mows the fields that he has now, the bigger ones, as you go through with the tractors, whatever you run over stays down. What these mowers do is they actually suck the grass up to cut the grass. So he's never had one of these before. So this is what this does.
Sounds pretty in-depth. That sounds like a real farmer. All right, Councilwoman Pitt.
Aye.
Councilman McCarthy.
Aye.
Councilwoman Snow.
Aye.
Councilman Migan.
Aye.
Supervisor Schmidt, aye.
Bless you.
Thank you.
All right, Resolution 77, I'll make a motion for 77. Solar permit fees, I did speak with our building department about this. They felt it was necessary to clarify some of the verbiage in these fees because the solar runs in rows when they install these things. And the intent when the fees were put in place for this was $100 per row of solar. And it just wasn't worded that way. And they don't want to see a project come along where the town is ended up being vulnerable to a large-scale project. Even though we have restrictions on commercial solar farms, we do allow it for your personal use. We do allow it for rooftop mounts on buildings. So this just gives them the ability to charge basically for every row of solar if you're covering a large building on your rooftop, which you are allowed to do. So that's what this is all about. Can I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, I just have a quick question. So if you are putting solar on your roof, that requires multiple rows depending on the layout of your home. So it's not per panel, this is per
Per
row?
row, yeah. They did some research on their end, and that's what they found they were most comfortable with because apparently it seems to run in rows a lot of times when it goes in. So that's how, with the research they did, this is what they recommended to us, to have it put in.
Yeah,
And a row can consist of how many panels?
It could consist of any amount of panels, right? It could be,
One panel?
it could be,
Two panels?
it could be 2 panels, and it could be 20 panels, if it's a small house or a large flat building.
Somebody who's gonna have one panel per row is gonna pay the same as somebody who has like 5 panels per row? Or 4 panels, 3 panels per row?
If that's the situation, unfortunately, sure. There's really no perfect formula for it, unfortunately, but they did do their research. This is what they recommended when I spoke to them this week. I had them send it to us as how they wanted it. This is what they felt most comfortable with,
who's that?
the building department.
I kind of agree, because depending on your roof layout, you could have 1 and then maybe 5. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, but again, there's no perfect formula for that, right? How else would you charge someone for that? There's also, because there's different size panels, right? If you did a Tesla roof, every shingle is considered a panel.
Have they looked at any other towns? How
I
they do it?
believe they looked into this before they kicked it to us, yeah. When I spoke to them this week, they were gonna look into it as to what they felt most comfortable with.
So if we were to do, if someone was to do a Tesla roof, let's say, how would that permit fee work out for the solar per row?
With the solar shingles, you mean?
Yeah.
You'd have to ask the building inspector about that. I don't know how he would do that.
Are we able to
It's-
table this until we have a couple more questions answered, if
I
that's?
think they did,
Or-
they did want this, we could always amend it moving forward. He did want this done. They did ask me to get this done this week. So we could always vote on this tonight, and if you want to make further changes to it, we could email him and get some clarification and make changes next month as well.
Yeah, because I think it's a good idea too. The Tesla roof is an exemption, you know, that's completely different than any of the other roofs,
But we
so.
could vote on it. Again, it's just for solar roofs anyways. It's for panels. but
Panels, right.
We could pass this, we could vote on this, and then we could, everybody could email the building department.
Where does it say for panels, sorry?
No, it's per row.
Okay.
It's per row.
I would feel more comfortable if I did a little research into it, but
Do we have a second for this, Kathy? All right, Councilwoman Pitt,
Nay.
Councilman McCarthy,
Aye.
Councilman Snow,
Nay.
Councilman Migan,
nay.
Supervisor Schmidt, aye.
Should have read, I should have had my questions lined up.
All right.
but-
I hadn't seen this either on the agenda too early. I don't know if this was from,
This
Last
should
day.
have been on, this is something they've been working on for a couple of weeks, actually. This should have been on here. Yeah, because I met with them last week about this, because they asked me about it. Payment of bills for the town of Pawling, Resolution 78, I'll make a motion for 78, could I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Pitt,
Aye.
Councilman McCarthy,
Aye.
Councilwoman Snow,
Aye.
Councilor Migan,
aye.
Supervisor Schmidt, aye. Thank you. That's it for our resolutions. All right, town board items, special consideration and new business. I will start with Councilwoman Pitt.
Yeah, just going back to Resolution 77, I guess if we can all just maybe put our questions together on one thread and send them over to the building department, that way we can maybe have
Yeah,
it
sure.
on for the
Absolutely.
next workshop.
Mm-hmm.
Get some clarification on that. Let's see, what else do I have? I did make contact today, hold on, let me pull up his name. My phone just died, about Verizon again, and I was given the contact information for our government rep in this area. So I'll raise her tomorrow.
A Verizon
Yeah.
government rep?
Yeah, and see what our options would be here, if any, and, you know, speak to her about our current contract that we have with Comcast. Hold on one sec, I just want to pull her name, please.
Sure.
I was speaking with Sean Coffey. He's the Mid-State Senior Director of Ops. That covers this territory, so he's putting me in touch with April Horton from their government affairs team regarding our inquiry into Verizon broadband services offered. Plan for Pawling, which there are none, but we're gonna ask some questions about it. That was all I had, thank you.
Councilman McCarthy.
I got a phone call just before getting here today from Dave from the new solar company I was talking to you about last week. He is going to shoot me an email sometime in the next week as to when he can come down and meet with us and look at the buildings and
Great.
what he proposes. And I'd be, you know, like I say, once that gets done, he did think that some of the buildings would work from just looking at it from the satellite images he's seen. So there are grants from the state, there's grants from the federal government and different things, so he'll let us know about all that when he gets down here.
So, I'm
And
sorry,
that's-
who was that?
His name is Dave. I didn't get his last name, sorry.
He's with a solar company?
He's with a solar company. I'll shoot you all an email as soon as I get that from him. They gave him my cell phone number, so I'll pass that on. And if, I know the mayor's here, if you'd like me, I could forward his information to you too, if you're interested at all in any solar for the village. He actually mentioned the sewer plant, so I was gonna talk about that tomorrow night, but when he was looking at different images of the village property and town property, he thought that maybe, so I'll forward that to you. That's all.
Thank you. Councilwoman Snow?
Just two things. So the first one is we received information on just some grants going on. Department of Environmental Conservation is accepting applications for 3 programs. The one that may fit with us, but we could just double check, is the Resilient Watersheds Grant Program. $45 million will be made available through DEC. On the success of Resilient New York program in advancing the state's goal of strengthening water infrastructure and protecting New Yorkers from the impacts of extreme weather. You know, again, we haven't had a lot, but we had that big, you know, hurricane years, I don't even know how many years ago it was now, where we had all that damage.
Yeah.
But I am interested in, you know, just looking into it to see if we can get some grant monies for that, and just see if it's even something that will fit for us.
Sure.
So that was one of the things that was interesting. The other one is, I know we had a presentation at the last meeting from Millennium, and I don't know if there's going to be any more discussion on that, and where we're left with their RFQ. How will we discuss this?
I mean, they gave a very good presentation. I don't know what further discussion is needed right now, unless the board was thinking about changing from LaBerge. I believe LaBerge does a really good job for us. They're clearly the 2 best grant companies. I think you're well served with either of them. You know, just from calling around myself and talking to other towns, it seems that LaBerge and Millennium they're definitely you can't go wrong with either one of them. They're both the top preferred grant companies in New York State, it seems, for sure, and we can see why. They're very professional, and they both win a lot of grants. I just don't know that if we're better served with them compared to LaBerge, or vice versa. But it was a good presentation. I don't know how the rest of the board felt. There's no doubt about it that they're strong competitors, for sure. There's no third company in this state from any town you talk to. When you call other communities, it's always LaBerge and Millennium are the 2 top, for sure.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I was going to just say, and again, I want to make it clear, I think LaBerge serves us well. I'm still going back to, you know, we're going to be upon budget season again.
Right.
Sooner than I think, you know,
Right, in the next 2 months, honestly.
Yes. So, you know, again, I'm just going back to last budget where, you know, in order to do the 5-year plan, you know, there are some things that it was said we have to tighten up a little bit. And I don't know if we really look through the money, is Millennium going to be cheaper or not? I don't know, but how do we have the discussion
It seems
to figure out what's the best for us? And also just learning too, you know, again, from the town of Kent, in talking with the supervisor, they had another company before, and it was costing them a lot of money. And, you know, they had to, you know, look at what made sense too, and they're very happy, from my understanding, and Nancy, you could attest to that.
Yes.
With Millennium. So I didn't want it to be a presentation and then we not discuss it, so that's why
Sure.
I'm bringing it up.
The numbers, and Dave Jenkins from Millennium sent over, I did follow up with him in an email after the presentation as well. The numbers are pretty much neck and neck, though. When you look at, if you go to, you know, complete coverage from Millennium, it was like 40,000, right? Marty or Councilor Mikan, it was like 40,000 was their number. It was basically the same number that LaBerge puts in place, also a budgetary number, which you always end up having the ability to exceed, depending on how many grants you're going after and how much administrative they're working doing. So their estimates are, understandably so, because they're the 2 biggest competitors. Their estimates are very much the same coming in on what they're providing for you. I don't think, like I said, I think you'd be well served with either one of them. But at this point in time, I don't know that we would change in the year, but it is something that you would want to get probably RFPs out and get real estimates going into budget time, because, as you know, we start the budget process in June here.
Yes.
Right, because it takes you a few months to get it done, and then we start having our public hearings in October. So you would want to tighten up the numbers on those things moving forward. So I believe that that's when you would really be looking to do it, if you're looking to, depending on where things are going to come in this year too, right, on your operating expenses for the course of the year. I don't know that that change needs to happen right now. The numbers are, if you look at them, from what LaBerge estimated to us and then what Millennium estimated, they're very, very close. Very close.
No, you go ahead, Corinne.
No, just to piggyback off what Councilwoman Snow had mentioned, you know, I think, listen, we've been talking about this for a while now, and if, you know, I feel like our conversations that we have about it seem to tiptoe around really what certain folks want to see happen, which maybe some of us on this board want to move away from LaBerge for whatever reason. So if that's the case, I think we just need to say it. Now, for me, I'm happy with LaBerge, and, you know, going off what Colleen had just mentioned, it's tricky to, like, in my mind, to make that comparison with numbers, right? It's tricky to make that comparison with the town of Kent because, listen, we're different than the township of Kent, right? And who knows who was handling their grant administration, you know, prior to Millennium coming in. And yeah, maybe their fees were astronomical, right? So I would really, if there was a way to make a comparison side by side with numbers, you know, LaBerge versus Millennium, but then again, how do you really do that? I don't know.
Well, you're right, the process is slightly different, and like when Dave Jenkins, in his presentation, one of the things he said was grants specific to departments, the administrative work was always, in other towns they worked with, the administrative work was done by those departments. Right, we don't operate it here that way completely where, you know, recreation is handling any grant for recreation, and, you know, I mean, even though we do have departments doing that, right? Highway's doing it, which is fantastic. Stephanie does a lot in our office. I think every town does handle it differently. That would be a great scenario if you could figure out a way to have it done per department, but I don't know that we're really set up to have different departments handling their own grants completely in that capacity. But it's always a learning curve for sure. There's ways to look into it. It will be looked into going into this year's budget because there are things, as you brought up the 5-year plan, that we are concerned with. You know,
And that's my concern as we're going into budget
Listen,
season, and Christine's told us that.
The ambulance
So that's my
contract's
concern.
coming up, right? We know it's gonna be a big deal. We know that some of these FEMA projects, right, that Bobby and Ananda are working on are great, but Old 55, those come through, there's a pretty, not that it's a heavy match for us, but dollar-wise, it's a heavy match because the overall project of Old 55 is extremely costly. So there are things that we're trying to plan for sure.
One thing, I'm sorry.
No,
One
I
thing-
just, are you done with LaBerge?
No, I just had
Okay,
one more thing,
okay.
one more thing. You know, again, because the only times we can all discuss this is at these meetings. Now, before I was on the board, before you voted on LaBerge, you actually had two presenters come. It was LaBella and LaBerge. And each of them did a side-by-side, and then the
Yeah.
board got to hear everything, and, you know, the decision was to go with LaBerge. You know, might that be something we might consider before the budget? I don't know, I'm just throwing out ideas so that we just, we're just dotting our i's and crossing our t's before budget season, that's all. Because I would hate to then hear halfway through the year, after we adopt our budget,
You know, the
that
money-
now we've got to cut something else that we just weren't prepared for. I'm just trying to be proactive, that's all
Well,
I'm doing with this.
Especially this year, I mean, there's so many grants that are getting, you know, there's a lot of funding that's up in the air, right?
Yes,
And so this would be a very interesting year to see is throwing, you know, grant requests at federal money is a waste of time, right? You never know. You're really going to see this year how things are going to work out. In the past, we've been very successful, but it is a gray area right now for sure. That's something we're going to have to look very closely at and see what our award factor is this year. You know, how many we're able to get for how many we apply for. But I agree
I
with you.
also don't know how like companies would come in and do a side-by-side conversation, you know, because based on work that one company has already done, not quite sure how they would
Well,
make
the
that
thing was,
compare.
we didn't have a grant company prior to that, right? It was a little easier then because we didn't have one then.
Oh, so that's what I was just gonna
Yeah.
offer up.
Yeah,
There's
other than,
always
like-
another option.
Yeah, but
of hiring
other than like CDBG grants, you know, we didn't really, Pawling didn't apply for a lot of grants prior to that.
Right.
That's when we started getting into it, and we had those other companies come in because we wanted to start going after some of this money. I mean, these grants are all our tax dollars out there, right? If you don't go after them, another community is going to, and they're going to end up in another community. That's why we go so strongly after them. So that's why it was a little different, Councilman Pitt, in the beginning, because we were able to start with a blank slate because we essentially were a blank slate at that point in time. Now we have so many going on. The goal this year is to get some of these closed off and off the list and get it a little more under control, because we do have, we've been lucky to win a lot of them, but it comes with a lot of work. It catches up to you quickly. That you don't want to have this many hanging over your head at any one time.
So I'll chime in on the grants. Just like with the grant and engineering and attorneys, we did RFPs this year. I believe that's just best practice. So in a way, yes, some people, like I was totally unhappy with what went on at the boathouse and the oversight. I talked to a lot of people up there. I talked to people that work for us. I wasn't happy. I can't say that was about the grant writing.
Yeah.
The oversight of the contractors, that I was not happy with that. And I think we spent a lot of money. We paid, if I don't have the figures with me tonight. So I'm not even going to say what I thought it was, because I don't have it with me tonight, but
For sure.
and I spoke to you about that in
Absolutely.
the past, about
Right.
the oversight of the jobs.
Right, but that project, I mean, on the grant part of that project, we did very, very well, right? We've been awarded a lot of money on that grant part of that project.
So initially, my
You're talking about
thoughts-
construction.
Initially, my thoughts were, but we have them doing everything, right? So we have them doing the engineering, we have them doing contract oversight, right?
In some capacities, yes.
On that boathouse.
On that boathouse, correct,
So
yes.
I go and look at that boathouse in the way it looks right now, and I look at $1.5 million over that
Yeah.
we've already spent there. And, no, do I think it's all their fault? No, I don't. But I
Right, it was
don't,
a
I don't
building-
think a company from that far away should be overseeing jobs in Pawling on a
Yeah.
regular basis. That's just my opinion.
It's understandable. Listen, it was a big building full of asbestos that unfortunately couldn't get an abatement because it was condemned, so the whole building had to be treated like asbestos,
No,
and all
I-
the contacts, all the
Now that we're
contents.
on that, I just wanted to ask a question. Does the pavilion and everything have to be completed before we start getting part of our $500,000 back?
No, we've
No,
already
no.
started that process.
We've already put in a claim for the, I think,
Okay.
don't quote me, around 400,000
Okay,
already.
good,
Yeah.
good. So no, I don't necessarily, like Corinne had said, some people don't want to go, some people may want to go with another company. I want to keep our options open. You know, and I think Millennium's a good company. I was very impressed with the guy. The guy's an open communicator, which honestly, I'm even, you know, I see emails that Jim sends me after the fact when he wants to let us know what's going on, but it's generally like, here's one from, I have it here somewhere, but you just sent it today, I think, about.
I don't know what you mean when I want to send it to you. What do you mean by that?
So when you want to give us information,
Regarding what?
maybe I'm not putting it in the right category. Let me find it.
I mean, I send information to you when I get it, usually. Once I have
Yeah.
final answers, I always pass it on to the full board.
Yes, so
I never receive a reply from anybody,
No,
but I do send it to you.
No, it's not about the reply. I would rather just be CC'd on the conversation myself, instead of having to get it through you.
So me
You know what I mean?
personally, on the other side of the perspective from Councilman Migan,
Yes.
I prefer having a point person and then information get pushed out.
Yeah, I would think if not just Jim, anybody here, if you had a, listen, we all see how many emails a day we get, so I guess Councilman Migan, if you had a question for anyone, LaBerge or Hogan and Rossi, or even a department here, I'll be honest with you, I don't want to be CC'd on like your question about something if I don't have to, because I already get 70 emails a day anyway.
No, that's
So
fine.
if Jim is sending you something, it's because he had a question, and then he says, okay, it's relevant, let me send it on to the board. I think if we all CC'd each other on every question for every professional service or everything going on here, we'd be
No, it wouldn't.
150
It wouldn't be
emails a
that.
day.
It was, I think it was specifically about this board that that you're going to create.
Oh, the comprehensive plan committee?
So, like, even though I'm not maybe a point person from the town board, I still would like to be CC'd on those emails.
But he did send it to you, though, you're saying?
As soon as I
Yeah.
had all the answers, I sent it to you, and I still haven't received a reply back from anybody that you received it even.
Yeah, no, it's not about, to me, it's not about me replying. I would just like to see the information.
Well, I sent it to you as
But
soon as
it's
I had the
gotta-
answers.
Right, so I'd like just to be CC'd on the emails when you're dealing with it. I noticed that it was James that was CC'd on it, and Corinne and you.
Mm-hmm.
Why not just open it up to the full board?
Which email was this?
I don't, yeah, what
It was the questions that I sent to Nancy and.
Yes, exactly.
Nicole, with questions, can you be on the comprehensive board and the affordable housing?
So
Who appoints it? How does it
Right.
set up? Does it have to be a resolution? Do we
And
have
I
to advertise for it?
I appreciated that you sent it to me, but what's the difference if you CC 3 of us or 5 of us?
Well, I always CC the supervisor in every single email I send out,
Okay?
because I think that's the correct thing to do. The reason why Corinne was on it is because initially, when we talked about this, and we'd had some meetings about the comprehensive board, Corinne and I were working on it.
Okay.
Questions. So I've been in contact with LaBerge from the beginning about it. And the minute I had the answers, which were literally the same day,
And
I forwarded it to the full
that.
board.
I appreciate that.
So
What would be the difference between you having to go through that step and just adding us?
I just think it's one less step for everybody. I mean, like we said, we all get numerous emails,
It's
and I
one
just
more
thought that
step-
it has the
it's One more
facts.
step for you, though.
It's one extra name I have to add to sent to. It's no big deal. I just thought it's easier for the board to understand everything once we have the answers.
Yeah,
If the
I'm-
supervisor tells me to include everybody on it, I will do that.
But just to be clear, it was forwarded on the second you had an answer from,
The minute Nancy and Nicole
it was
replied to
forwarded on
me,
to the
it
whole board.
was forwarded to the full board.
Right, to the whole board, okay.
Guess I just don't understand why you can't just add 2 in the CC instead of waiting for an answer and then sending it to me. That's all. It
If that's what the
seems-
super wants me to do, I'm more than happy to do it. It's very
I
simple.
mean,
It's adding
I
two names
just,
or three names.
listen, I think we're making a, maybe I'm not completely understanding this.
I guess I can go
I think if
through it.
everybody was on every single email, though, every single email,
But I guess
The emails a
just
day.
hearing this, if there's a quorum already on the email,
yeah.
That's true.
there should be the full board. That's
Yeah,
what I
yeah,
think.
that's
If
a
it's
good
a
point.
quorum, I understand if it's a supervisor and a deputy
That's-
supervisor.
that's a valid
But
point,
if there's going to be a
Councilman.
quorum,
Yeah.
then it should be the full board.
Yeah, but
That's my
you're-
2 cents.
You're right, Councilman, that's a good point. That's a
Okay.
very good point.
Okay.
Yeah, anything more than the supervisor and deputy supervisor will add the whole board to it, the conversation pieces.
And I do appreciate that you do forward.
So we kind of hijacked your time speaking.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry. I just
That's all
had
right.
those 2 things.
Okay, oh, that's it.
all I
Okay.
had. Thank you.
Sorry about that.
Thank
So
you.
I just want to mention that there's going to be a Pawling Mobile Health Day, Thursday, the 17th. Trying to see 22 Coulter Avenue at the Holy Trinity Episcopal Church. So that's Thursday, April 17th. I got this information because I went to the Pawling Resource Center has a food bank the first 2 Tuesdays of the month. Now, April 12th, there's going to be a Dutchess County Health Fair, and that's going to be up in Poughkeepsie. It's going to be health resources for all ages. So I just wanted to pass that on.
Great. Thank you. So I just want to mention that we are working on our workplace training again. Steph and I are going to be getting some stuff out to the board, and we're going to get it out to all of our employees and our appointed people as well, because we are coming up on the necessary timeline for our sexual harassment and workplace violence training. This year, where we're also going to make sure, I don't know if all of our employees have understood completely about our our EAP program, Employee Assistance Program. We've done it in the past, but we're going to try and set up like a lunch and learn this year is what we're going to try and call it. And we're going to invite town employees, and we're going to have them understand benefits that you didn't know you had, all right? And we're going to look into getting a representative here for them. They're going to give them professional information on insights into the benefits that they have available to them and how to utilize them. We do have a flyer which we'll make sure we get up on the to all of the employees, and we'll get that in an email as well, because there's a lot of things here offered to employees, and appointed people from legal stuff, dietary stuff, EAP counseling, financial referrals, life coaching, phone-based supportive counseling, life work balance, employee resource navigation, and other options. So this is something that a lot of our employees aren't utilizing. They may not know it's even available to them. So when we jump into workplace violence and the sexual harassment training, we're going to get this out to everybody to make sure they know it's available to them. And if we can get a professional here, which I believe we'll be able to, we're going to make sure that we get that here for them as well. The only thing I wanted to mention was, Jim, the date for the Pawling game dinner, right? Is that in the first, or is that the second week in May?
No, I think it's the 4th. 5th,
Saturday, May 3rd.
3rd, the first Saturday.
Yeah, Saturday, May 3rd. Sorry, I just got it on my phone here.
Yep, the 3rd.
Pawling's 28th Annual Sportsman's Night. It's a big deal. It's probably the biggest event they do next to the carnival, right?
Yeah, it is.
And sometimes 500 to 700 people. It's all game meat, but if you don't like game meat, it's still just a fun group anyway. So they do have, the doors open at 5 o'clock. Tickets are $50 a ticket. They have over $10,000 worth of prizes they'll be auctioning off. You can buy your tickets locally at the Pawling Family Quick Stop or on www.pawlingfire.org. All right, so there's a whole bunch of stuff going on that night. There's different sponsorship levels if you have a business, you want to be involved, but they wanted any sponsorships to get information in by April 22nd. So once again, May 3rd, Pawling Sportsman's Fireman's Fundraiser. That's all I have after that.
I just had a quick question.
Go ahead.
I think that's great with having the services of what the EAP does. Would she be able to actually come and speak to it? Because we get her contract every year, and I will say, she puts in all her services.
Yeah.
Could she do it, possibly?
So maybe her, I don't want to say yes, but they did say that someone would be available.
Okay.
Yeah, they said that they will get somebody here to speak with us. So as soon as I find out who it is, I'll make sure I pass it on to the whole board as well.
Yep.
And it's something, like I said, we want the employees to take advantage of it. It's here for them. It's paid for, and it's a valuable resource.
Sorry, one more thing.
Go ahead. Sure.
Supervisor, I don't think there's I'm just going back to the email conversation. I don't think there's such a thing as a quorum in an email. We don't make decisions via email. I just wanted to put that out there.
And I don't know, Nancy, maybe I'm wrong. I thought anything involved in text and emails in regards to a board, if there's 3 or more, it's considered a quorum. That's what I've learned in my
I
training.
think the purpose of avoiding a quorum when there's not supposed to be one is so the board can't take action.
Right,
And I don't think, you can't take action by email.
correct,
So,
correct. I think it's just more the emails in general. I mean,
This is pretty.
the first time.
It's pretty easy. Jim and I are on a lot of the emails together as supervisor and deputy supervisor, which is understandable. It's something. It's an easy practice to do moving forward, right? It was going forward. We'll add
Yeah, as
that
long
with
as
the
it's
emails.
reciprocated.
But there are going to be a lot of emails going around because we get some serious emails. It's a busy threads for sure.
So I just wanted to chime in as well, as far as like Millennium, who we saw here last time.
Yes.
I mean, would we be able to find a grant we're looking to go after and then give each the information and say, make your bids?
No, I don't think you would break up grant writing that way.
No?
No, you would have.
I think it's a good idea, but
I don't know that it's
just to
feasible.
see where they're both at.
I don't know that it's feasible, to be honest with you.
Marty's question? Sorry, Marty, can you repeat your question?
Sure. If we were looking at a grant, what would be the issue of giving LaBerge the information or Millennium
I
both?
think you'd probably hear from both of them if you said that. They would be like, no.
To get a price.
Yeah.
Why not? We do it with other,
I just, my personal opinion, I don't think they would, I don't think either one of them would open that door to that.
and I think practically speaking, part of their services includes identifying the grants for you, so you'd essentially be paying 2 companies to do the same thing. Because I had the same thought about a half hour ago.
right, okay.
When I have 2 consultants on hand, but you have to pay them a fee.
Well, I don't mean, I guess
good
that
point,
could be a
Nancy,
little
yeah.
complicated, but just, like I believe, I don't know if it was something at the recreation, they found a grant that they wanted. Did you see that
Yes.
in email?
Yes, Robbins grant, yes.
So why not give it to both and say, what will you charge us for the for the grant writing? Because they're supposed to give us a hard number, right?
I
Then
guess,
you could really compare apples to apples.
I guess my initial thought would be if that's feasible, then why doesn't every town and village do it?
I don't know. I'm not sure what.
We could look into it more. I personally, I don't think it would work out like that. I think you pick a grant company, you have a retainer, and listen, again, I don't believe I think we'd be well served with either. I've made plenty of calls to other towns. Millennium and LaBerge are the two biggest, most prominent grant companies in New York State by far. They're the top two.
Are they?
Yeah,
Really?
they're the two best. Everyone you talk to, they're the two best grant companies, for sure. So I don't think you're having any issue with any one of them. But they'll both be obviously bidding in this year's budget coming up again, because
I see.
the budget will be coming up again. We start that process in June, like we do every year, and it takes a few months, basically June to October, to get that done. All right, anything else from the board? I will open the floor with respect to agenda and non-agenda items. Please state your name and address for the record. Try and keep your comments around 3 minutes.
Good evening, Harvey Matkowski, the resident of Holmes, New York. I haven't been here since January. That's 4 months. I don't know where to begin with this list. Let's start with the most recent one, LaBerge. Listening to the conversation here, it's my understanding they dropped the ball when they approved or responsible for oversight in the contracts, especially when you get to asbestos. I've been on the school board for 10 years. I've been on the construction committee. And the first thing that our architects, our engineers said is there any asbestos? Is there any asbestos? How do you grant a contract without having tested for asbestos, knowing that there would be a substantial overrun? That's goddamn malfeasance on somebody's part. I can't blame somebody, but somebody dropped the ball, period, number one. So I don't know how you could consider LaBerge when their fingerprints are all over signing this contract, and they're responsible, in my opinion, for a good deal of the oversight. I listened to the planning board the other day. I would hope that every one of the town trustees, councilmen, whatever they're being called, and the supervisor was listening. Okay. They're close to a settlement under Tremson. I have heard, and that the legal fees were over $100,000. Who's paying that? Is our insurance paying that? Don't answer me now. God, it's a simple question. How much were the legal fees? And for training board, they try to get away with harvesting trees. And if it wasn't for Everett White and people in the building department finding this out at the last minute, they would have harvested trees without approval. The ASPCA, they think they can get it with everything. Last time I was here, we had a discussion on having them do a pilot or contributing to the fire department. And everybody has done that. All of our nonprofits have done that. Supposedly, there was some sort of conversation originally with the ASPCA. Nobody ever followed through. I seem to recall that, James, you said you would look into it and see if you could negotiate or speak to them about contributing to the cost of fire service. Have you done that? You don't have to answer me. It's a question. Okay? Marty Megan, Councilman Megan, brought it up last meeting. He said he got some sort of conversation with somebody from the ASPCA. I don't know if there was any follow-up on it, but why is the conversation from January, 4 months ago, and Marty Megan 4 months later has to go out of his way and the only one and try to speak to somebody? If they, this is damn inconceivable. There's no bus stop shelter yet on the Castagna property. How long has this been going on? I don't understand what, with all due respect, and I'm being serious, What, this board sits there. Let's get to something else. And I went to sewer commission meetings. I don't know how long ago it was a couple of years ago. Supposedly, they're going to reform it. $43,000 in fees to the commissioners. There are 2 members of this board that are collecting. There are 5 members of the village board. This is 2 years later. And why should I give up my $500 whether I come to the damn meeting or not? What the hell is going on with the way this town is run? You know, this is very aggravating. I'm going to have to take an extra blood pressure pill or something before they come. Nothing is done. And whatever has happened, it's all screwed up. And really, I don't know why this has been going on and on and on. And it takes this 85-year-old senior to come here with no dog in the fight to do it. The audiences out here, they don't care. Does anybody care where their tax money goes, or the responsibility of the town board members and what they're supposed to do? People aren't. Everybody is not CC'd, and they probably is. But the coup de grace was this conversation on LaBerge, and there's no way you're going to convince this guy, because I've sat on committees in construction, $75 million construction project that we just did, millions of dollars on garage, and the first thing that comes up, and I've heard it here, is asbestos. Okay.
Gotcha.
Now somebody dropped the damn ball on it. It's simple as that. And somebody should be held accountable for it. One other thing. Everybody knows what's going on in Washington. And if you guys sitting there, think that the $1 million grant on the Route 22 project from Washington is ever going to happen, at least for the next 4 years, boy, oh boy, oh boy, I got a bridge in New York to say, and you can't count on that. So all the planning that you're doing on the sewers, and believe me, I want that done because it's going to help the town, but that $1 million is a fantasy. And okay, and I don't get it. The legal fees, I mean, is anybody concerned with that? This thing is going on and on and on in court. And the only one that's gaining on it, every time there's a new court hearing, and there are many, many, many of them, are the attorneys. Attorneys never lose money. It's not. I doubt very much that it's covered by our insurance policy. I'm just fed up with this thing. This is ridiculous.
Thank you very much. Any other comments? Okay, seeing none, I'll make a motion to adjourn. Could I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.